Okay, we are ready to go.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining again. Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. We've got a pretty decent lineup of folks today. This is pretty great. Molly Brandt, who's our Chief Operating Officer, Brenda McGee, who is our Director of Procurement, are both here for pretty much the whole rest of the day, I think. I think they're on for the next couple of probably 5-6 hours, I think. I'm not sure. And so, of course, this is what we do is we bring in folks from the district who are experts in the pieces that the board wishes for the Finance and Audit Committee to review our policies and our procedures and our alignment with those policies and procedures. And FAC is working on behalf of the board. So with that, good morning, everyone, and I will turn it over to Brenda and Molly.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. I'll kick us off with just an overview. Honored to be here. Thanks for having me. I am not here for 5 to 6 hours, but rather about 30 minutes. But Aaron's sense of humor always gets me, especially 8 a.m. So I always appreciate that. Brenda, do you want me to share my screen with my report? Okay. Let me just get that going here. I had it queued up unlike last time, so I'm so excited. Very proud of myself. All right, can you see that? Okay, good. So last night actually had the opportunity to present this 2.5 monitoring report to the board. The monitoring period of this report is last school year, right? So it is from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. So we're in the rears a little bit. But a lot of times as we prepare the report, we think of improvements for future reports, etc., because we are currently in this year's monitoring period in which we will report on in January of 27. So the items on the agenda that you wanted us to review included 2.5.7, 2.5.8, 2.5.10, and then 2.5.5. So we'll start with 2.5.7. I'll go a little bit per the agenda that is on our calendar. So this policy is about that we shall not fail to provide periodic procurement reports to enable board members to monitor purchases, vendors, and trends. And as with past practice, I reported compliance. In all of the past reports that I have seen, we have reported compliance, and we have always stated that there have been no requests for procurement reports during the monitoring period, and there's no feedback, meaning items the board wanted us to bring to them. About when we were preparing this report and about in December, our general counsel at the time, Phil Spare, had asked a curious question around, should we provide reports without requests? He believes the policy language is written to provide a procurement report without request of one. And just to chat, Gina, Brenda, and I have had, we thought, yes, we can absolutely do something like that. When we switch to our new ERP system, Oracle, that will be much more able to be done. And I know that Gina and Brenda are talking about, well, what can we do since we're in a monitoring period now that we'd like to report compliance continued into next year? What could we do for the months between now and end of June to provide a periodic report to the board that isn't overly cumbersome for this group and or those two individuals, but could comply with this to provide a snapshot of trends. So with that, Brenda, I'll let you take it from there on anything else you'd like to report.
Thank you, Molly. I can't think of anything to report right now. We've talked about what kind of reports would FAC and the board like to see. I think further down in this report is the information on the number of purchase orders and contracts that were created during this monitoring period. So I'm open to suggestions. Again, as Molly mentioned, in our new ERP system, the reporting system will be much more robust, and we will be able to get this going in a better avenue, I feel like, and provide some better reports to get to both the board and the FAC in regards to purchasing. As of right now, we haven't really decided or had input to what maybe the board and yourselves would like to see from us, other than the numbers of purchase orders, et cetera, that we've done. So to be continued on that to figure out what type of reporting to the board and to FAC makes sense, and what would you truly like to see.
Hey, Brenda. Sorry I'm late, first of all.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, good morning. I think I made this recommendation outside of the recorded session in the past, but this is just stealing a page from something I learned once upon a time reporting to a public company audit committee. What they asked for was a summary, like an overlay page of, like, if you look back over any period, like just say the year, looking at a grid that shows for any exceptions, what the nature of the exception was, and then maybe the business unit, or in this case would probably be like the school or the function or the department where the exception occurred. And the reason for that was they were looking for patterns to say, like, is there a training gap? Is this one particular department or this one particular school, like maybe there's more exceptions from that group than others. So I think as part of a compliance report at the end, just show kind of some identification of, organization of those exceptions can be very informative for a board. I don't know if this board wants that or not, but just a suggestion, recommendation to consider, because it is illuminating if you see, like, hey, look, this one school had like 4 exceptions and nobody else did, and or if all the exceptions were universal across like the school district, but they were all of this one nature, right? Like they didn't, whatever, it was an exception because it went outside of, dollar amount or whatever. It might be.
Michael, I would echo that 100%. I think
Me too. I like that.
reporting is key. I mean, the number of purchase orders is interesting, maybe, but I think it's where the exceptions are. That is where you really want to focus and see what is there an issue. Is there, just like what Michael said? I'm not going to repeat it, so I'm just going to say I agree with what Michael said.
Okay. We will see what kind of report we can come up with that will provide that information, and see what we can compile in some type of format for you.
And I don't want it to sound with a gotcha type thing. That's not, it's more of an educational thing. It's like, where can areas be improved? Or is there a policy issue that needs to be addressed or clarified? That's how I see it.
Okay.
Right, that's great. Thank you. Anything else on 2.5.7? All right, we'll move on. I hope you can see the scrolling because my shared screen isn't showing up. 2.5.8 on the screen for you? Okay.
Yep.
So this is that the board shall not fail to approve property, real or otherwise, in disposition in acquisition or disposition in excess of $500,000. So we interpret this that really that unless it's part of a bond plan, a mill levy override, or a specifically identified budget item, we need approval from the board for anything over $500,000. Okay, so the data reported that I reported last night is that I did report compliance for 2.5.8. The district had 2 purchases of property, real or otherwise, that required board approval under this policy. That was 1, Northland High School's upgrades for compliance with the Americans of Disabilities Act. So I will say that that was about $800,000. It was some parking, it was some interior bathroom, locker room space, and some classroom things in the STEM area. That was so that we could continue receiving our grant. And this was agreed upon plan with that grantor, I should say. And we were able to complete that work last summer. So we got the approval in the spring, we completed it in the summer. And so that was approved prior to start of that work. The other one, which you can continue this into this monitoring period as well, because we're reporting on this as well, but Thunder Vista P8 school, we went to them for necessary corrective and preventative repair work. my memory serves me, that was about 3.2 million to do our phase 3 utility kind of dig out and supporting plan of that work. As many of you may know, we had a fire at Thunder Vista during this monitoring period that will require another approval of dollars as we go through the spring and identify those to our board. So both purchases were taken to the board prior to implementation of either the phase 3 work at Thunder Vista or the ADA work at Northland via a decision information report. We call that a DIR. And they were approved, as you can see, on February and May, respectively. So we were in compliance. Any questions?
As a side note to that one, Molly, on the North Glen ADA upgrades, we did do a procurement for that. We put a solicitation out on the street, and off the top of my head, I can't remember who that was awarded to, but that was done competitively. The Thunder Vista P8 is, of course, a different story, but it's with the vendor that originally built the school, I believe, is who that is.
Yeah, and for Thunder Vista, there are contracts in place when we started doing the repair work many years back, and it's been a couple of years now of repair work. And we have a forensic designer on board as well that design and repair work. Any questions? 2.5.8.
No, the only thing I was thinking was 500,000 too low, but if there's only 2 being reported, then obviously it's fine.
Yeah, and I think next year, I already know of some that will be planned. We most likely will have a white fleet going, well, Thunder Vista again. And then we have an item that's just now kind of arising for a need. And Cabinet has issued kind of an opinion on it and next steps. We haven't fully teased it out, but I believe that will be over 500,000, which is bidirectional amplifiers. So those are in each of our schools. Some schools don't have them, but most do. Fire departments now on their visits and audits of our schools are citing failure of those items. They're very expensive to either correct, repair, or replace. And yet they're life safety. What they do in a sense is that when emergency responders are on site, this bidirectional amplifier is similar to kind of like a radio frequency. They allow their radios to work within their own units and across units and within our units. So the reason that has come up is, one, we started testing these in the fall, and we've gotten testing results back, and 6 out of 10 that we tested failed. Sorry, 5 out of 10 that we tested failed. The 6th one that we know we're going to need to repair is Thunder Vistas, because we had difficult time. The fire department, North Metro, had difficult time radioing between their trucks sitting outside and inside the building. So that is most likely going to be items for future reporting.
Just out of curiosity, is Thunder Vista not the newest school in the district? What's prompting all of this work and excessive expenditure?
It is, it is built on an area of expansive soils. And so that this group knows, I can't say much about it, but we did try. So we do believe the expansive soils is a condition of this area. That is 100% a truthful statement. Homes in this area had all their basements rebuilt, piers put in. The building is structurally sound for Thunder Vista. What isn't structurally sound and what is moving is the soil is moving because it gets wet. If you see the structure of Thunder Vista, it's kind of built into a hill, and its eastern neighborhood boundary is kind of a hill down. So we not only get natural water, irrigation water from surrounding homes, but also then the soils have cracked plumbing lines that then introduces more water into the soil. With that water, that's what expands the soil and then has been affecting our plumbing, electrical utilities that are underground. It is a normal construction technique to put things like this in the ground, electrical, plumbing, etc. What isn't normal is the expansive soils.
Yeah.
We, as a district, we did try to resolve through mediation what we feel might be some construction errors. Well, not, I would say design errors. And we were unable to do so, so we did file suit with our original designer for that school. That is, you know, something we haven't resolved yet, and we are uncertain about. We do know the cause of the fire was related to expansive soils, and so our legal team and outside counsel is determining next steps for that.
Molly, thank you so much for the very thorough answer. You answered all of my questions. I felt that there should have to be some developer something here somewhere. So definitely appreciate that very thorough answer, dear. Appreciate it.
No, thank you very much.
I have a follow-on question to that. So Prospect Ridge is right down the street. Are we anticipating any similar issues with that because it's in the same neighborhood, or is it just higher ground so there's not going to be the same issues?
I can't really speak to that, not being an expert, but I will say that Thunder Vista was not built with a crawl space. And I'm not, if their building was, that could be a difference right there.
Okay. I was just curious because they're right down the street from each other.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move to 2.5.10. All right, yes, 2.5.10. Get there for you. All right, Brenda, do you want, is this mine? Oh, this is mine. So this is that, we interpret this is that we shall not dispose of any gift, encumbrance, granting to the district without a certain process and compensation. So as you read this, we, as Brennan, or as we researched this, the district did not relinquish or dispose of any property during the monitoring period. So we did assess compliance for this area. This one's kind of a little bit easier one. And therefore, the next interpreted statement, if any remaining property or operations become financially infeasible, unsafe, and accessible or dysfunctional thereafter, that did not apply since we did not relinquish any, and therefore are compliant with 2.5.10. I will say that we, looking forward, I always like to give you the looking forward. Although this is kind of a dry report for 2.5.10 this year, we are looking at selling land, hopefully in the next monitoring period to 2 monitoring periods. We do own a piece of land south of the ESC that we are currently have an interested buyer and following processes to see where that takes us. So it could be in the next 1 or 2 monitoring periods in which we do have application to the 2.5.10. All right, and then going back, this one is yours, the 2.5.5. I'll let Brenda speak to this one.
So 2.5.5 says that we shall not make any purchase wherein normally prudent protection has not been given against conflict of interest, and any material amount without having obtained comparative prices and quality, and without a stringent method of assuring the balance of long-term quality and cost. I point this back to our procurement district policies 3310 and 3320, which dictates what the levels of requirements are for soliciting. For this monitoring report, the information that Molly has on the screen here is prudent purchases 10,000, but under 100,000 people are allowed, people being the departments or the schools are allowed to do this on their own by getting at least 2 proposals. So that meets section B of this 2.5.5. And then the other information that's there again is just our limits on doing our procurement levels and what's required. Along with that, as we do the solicitations or go out and get quotes or whatever, we also have conflict of interest statements that we have our evaluation committees sign off on to say they do not have a conflict with potentially the vendors that we are looking at for those purchases, etc. So that is part of our solicitation process. With how we handle those. So that answers both A and B of 2.5.5 in our asset protection. Something that we will be looking at moving forward is potentially changing some of those limits. We are looking at updating our district policy on procurement. I've met with Gina and with legal counsel to review our policies on purchasing, and we're making some recommendations for some changes with that. So the next monitoring, those could be a little bit different.
Brenda, would you expect those to go up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those do seem
We are
Hello.
trying to align with the federal acquisition guidelines. With the dollar values, we're also looking at districts of the same size to make sure that we're in compliance, well, not in compliance, but we're not above really what they're doing, and want to see what everybody around us is doing. So doing some due diligence in trying to make sure that our policies match up with our fellow districts and size around us.
good. That sounds great.
And with that, that's our 2.5 monitoring report presentation for today under the areas in which they were identified. Any final questions for Brenda or myself on that? Appreciate you guys very much. I will mention, because many of you, I remember from when I came, the 2.5.2 is not part of our agenda today, but to give you an update on that, I came to this group, the wording that we are trying to figure out how to change, because as Chris said last night in the monitoring report, usually there's 3 reasons a monitoring report has consistent failure of compliance. This little section I've highlighted is the failure of compliance that we spoke about. And that's because we have now changed our software system to be more inclusive of items. So we've added to our deferred maintenance value, which gives us a more realistic, we'll never have a full, what is our replacement cost to the district, but this one gives us a more realistic cost than our past cost lab system did, because we are able to track way more things in a more inclusive component and system-based way. And and also the cost of the inflation of construction is just insane. And that is part of the factor of the equation that goes into developing the cost to replace and the cost of our deferred maintenance. So we'll say that right now we are looking at coming up with 2 to 3 new little snippets of language that could be inserted here. I know one is going to be this, but just increase the percentage to something that is more feasible long-term with our new approach to our data. Another will be a reporting in like a more in-depth reporting with maybe FCI and other things related to our buildings that are beyond deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance will still be a part of it. And then the third is still to be determined, or maybe a hybrid of the 2. So when I get those, I have a little subgroup for my LR pack that I lead that is kind of working on providing feedback to some of the options legal has given us. I will be coming back to this group, or asking Gina to come back to this group to just run them by you to get your feedback before going to the board. And we hope to come back in the spring at some point. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
Thank you, Molly.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.
Always appreciate you coming here, especially after a board meeting night. I just want the fact to know, of course, board meetings are spelled BORED, even if this is a publicly recorded thing. I think that's all true for everybody. But anyway, thank you so much, Molly, for joining us today. Again, as I said, especially after the board meeting night and everything that's going on at the district. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Molly.
Great. And now I think we'll just keep continuing now with Brenda. She's got some more pieces for us.
Thank you, Aaron. So the next piece that's on my agenda for this meeting is discussion of District Policy 4130, which is the staff ethics and conflicts of interest. I don't think there's a lot to report on as far as compliance. We did make some recommendations last year because at looking at this report, it spelled out some annual reporting that's done from HR where they do go out and verify that those of us that are particularly in the procurement world or touching those type of operations understand this policy with conflicts of interest, nepotism, etc. What we determined last year was that we had kind of a hole in that, in the fact that certified and classified did not get that annual monitoring. So HR was going to change that so that each year that is done the same way that it is done for the rest of the administrative staff and some certified staff. I did reach out to HR to find out if that was done, and I don't have a response back from them yet. I'll follow up again today and see if I can get that information for you guys. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot to report on this policy. Things are going okay with it. We do make every attempt as we do solicitations and stuff to make sure that we mitigate any risks for the district in regards to conflicts of interest and nepotism by, as I mentioned previously, having evaluation committees, et cetera, fill out our form that says they don't have a conflict of interest as they are on a committee to perhaps make a selection of somebody to award a solicitation to. So other than that, I think it's just a follow-up of making sure that HR added that additional level into the annual reporting factor. And I apologize that I don't have that answer for you today. Questions on 4130? All right, Aaron, that's all I've got on that.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to always refine that unmute button. Great, I appreciate it. Any further questions today for Brenda before we're able to end this part of the meeting, and we'll start work on the monitoring report for today.
I don't.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda.
And now, Carolina, we'll end the public part of the meeting, and so we can stop